Real Estate Pro Talk is a live radio talk show dedicated to educating its listeners on the entire spectrum of real estate matters. Part of the American dream is owning a home or investment property, or perhaps even becoming a real estate agent yourself. Paul Vanas and his team of real estate professionals have over 250 combined years of experience in the industry. In other words, we can make it happen for you. Why go down the road less traveled when we can put you directly on the real estate superhighway? Whether buying or selling in today's complicated real estate market, or if you just need advice about jumping into the real estate business for a career change, you'll need a decisive edge based on experience. Call Paul Vanas at 401-265-6144 for a free, no-obligation consultation. That's Paul Vanas at 401-265-6144.
Good afternoon. My name is Paul Vanas, and welcome to Real Estate Pro Talk. This is a real estate-oriented program which will cover a variety of topics every Friday afternoon from 3 to 4 p.m. here on WOON Radio. Some of the topics we'll be talking about during our time together will be how to buy and sell a home, how to choose a real estate agent, how to choose a mortgage broker, flipping real estate, staging a home for sale, private mortgage financing, and a whole lot more. I've been in the real estate business coming up on 40 years now, of which I own a real estate brokerage company, a real estate school, and a land development company. All of the knowledge that we're going to try and impart on you today is based on the continuing education classes that I teach licensed real estate brokers and agents, along with my personal experiences and those of our expert guests. In doing so, you'll have the information in hand when you meet a seasoned real estate broker. Today, I'd like to welcome John Barr from Bedbug Extermination RI. Welcome, John.
Paul, good afternoon.
Glad you could come in today. And, of course, John, being Bedbug Extermination, we'll have a lot of folks going to sit at the edge of their seat. because, I think this is a really important subject because being in the real estate business, no one wants to talk about bed bugs.
Correct.
But they are becoming a
prevalent
problem.
Across all socioeconomic communities.
Now, when we sat before the show started, you were kind of telling me the history of how this came about. Why don't you explain to our audience?
Well, as children, everybody's heard the phrase, sleep tight, don't let the bed bugs bite, because historically they've been around. Mm-hmm. But since the GIs came back from World War II and they had quite a bit of bed bugs with them, chemicals were developed, basically DDT. Mm-hmm. And in the 40s and 50s, DDT all but eradicated bed bugs throughout the United States.
Wow.
And then a couple of years ago, the federal government did away with DDT because it's a carcinogen that causes cancer. Everyone remembers we had frogs with an extra leg being born, things of that nature. So it was removed. But the problem is that there's been really no good replacement for DDT in terms of killing bed bugs. Consequently, we now see a resurgent across the country of bed bugs today.
Wow. So how did you get into this business? I mean, not everyone wakes up one day when you're a kid and say, I want to get in the bed bug business. How did you, you're not making light of it, but you perform a really valuable service. How did it come about that you got into the business?
My wife and I own Lead Safe Inspections and Consulting. It's an environmental firm. We test for lead. During one of the times that we're at a HUD conference for healthy homes, they discuss radon, they discuss lead, they discuss asbestos. Well, one of the topics was bed bugs, because insecticides were not killing bed bugs. There needed to be an alternative, and an alternative that HUD was basically saying was sufficient to kill them was heat. Once I came back from that conference and did some research around Rhode Island, southern New England, there really wasn't anyone using high heat to kill bed bugs. Wow. So at that point, my wife and I started the process of researching, training, things of that nature, to see what it would take to bring this technology along to service all of Rhode Island and southern New England.
So the chemicals that you said that were eradicated, DDT, there were no really effective replacement chemicals that they were using?
Well, they do have they do have pyrethroids that are out there today that many exterminators that spray use. Mm-hmm. The problem is they're not at the strength of DDT. Rule of thumb, is that if you spray 3 or more times and the bed bugs are not dead, then they have an enzyme in their body, builds up a resistance to the chemicals. Now it's virtually impossible to get rid of them. At that point, you either have to freeze, which means you have to have a wand and freeze each one of them individually, or you do high heat. And when we do high heat, we're talking 125 degrees to 135 degrees to kill bed bugs, which is a little warmer than your car on a hot summer day.
Right.
And it's the same principle as, and everyone's familiar with, if it's a July or August day and there's a pet or, God forbid, a young child in a car, they only have a half hour to live at that temperature. Bed bugs, same way. They're a skeletal animal with a skeleton on the outside of their body that's covered by a layer of wax. At 125 degrees, that wax melts immediately. They dehydrate and die.
Oh, wow.
And not only is it just the bed bugs, but it kills all stages at once. The bed bugs, the eggs, and the larvae.
I see. Wow, that's interesting. I didn't know that. So assuming that, I called you tomorrow and said, John, I have a situation where we have some bed bugs that have been identified. Do you actually heat up the room, the entire room of a place? Or
No, we actually heat the entire dwelling unit.
Oh, wow.
So the equipment that we have is a 7 by 14 foot trailer with a 1.2 million BTU heater in it. So that allows us, and that is basically, the heat is fed into a house by 3 tubes that are 12 inches in diameter that are 25 feet long.
That's
so
a
we
big
pull
heater.
up to the house. It's a big heater. So in very short order, it allows us to bring the entire house up to 135 degrees. And an average heating for bed bugs takes between 6 and 8 hours because we need to get deep heat penetration into cushions for couches, for chairs, your box spring, your mattresses, things of that nature. And just like your car on a hot summer day where your technology components aren't disturbed, your radio, your CD player at 125, 130, neither are the fabrics on the seats. Same thing with your house. Nothing is damaged at 125 to 130 degrees. No damage occurs. Just anything. We've gone in and we only guarantee and we only do bed bugs, but there's dead cockroaches, there's dead mites, there's dead spiders, there's dead mice. So everything dies in that house.
Wow.
With the time frame that we're cooking it.
So this machine that you use, is operate on fuel, or is it electric, or
propane fuel, as I said, and it goes through hundreds of pounds of propane per job. But we also have a 14,000 watt generator that runs the high velocity fans pushes it into the house. And then we also have to have high velocity fans in there because, as everybody knows, heat stays at the ceiling level.
I see.
So we need to keep it circulating, and we have wireless thermometers that feed heat back. The temperatures back to our cell phones. Wow. So it's more than just turning on the heat and sitting there. It's a whole process, but everything has a thermal kill rate, and we just bring it up to that thermal kill rate, and we eradicate every insect in the house.
So it's pretty involved. So let's say, for example, it's a 3-family house, and someone identifies bed bugs on the second floor. Do you have to do the units on either side of that unit, like all 3 units, for example, or you just do that one particular
protocols
unit?
We follow is that we go into the second floor unit. Now, you can have an incident where a child has just brought him home from school on their backpack, or we had a visiting nurse, a social worker, or things of that nature, and we can contain it to 1 bedroom. If it's 1 bedroom, we still do the entire unit.
Okay.
But if we see only limited amount of bed bugs themselves, some nymphs, some eggs or larvae, minimal fecal matter, we can tell that this is not an infestation.
Right.
This is a incident. We'll go in there and heat that unit. Okay. And interesting enough, what people don't realize, that 3-family house, it has, say the second floor has just bed bugs. Under the minimum housing statute in the state of Rhode Island, as long as it's just that unit, it's the tenants that's responsible for the cost, not the landlord.
Really?
It only goes to the landlord if it goes from that unit into a common hallway or that unit into a second unit.
I see.
So, more tenants have brought them in, and then they're like, well, the landlord has to pay. And it's like, well, technically, under the law, it's, and that's any rodent or infestation. If it's just that one single unit,
I see.
and we've got rental single family houses where the tenant's like, the landlord has to pay for this. And it's like, no, single unit. It's the tenant's responsibility to pay if it's that lone unit.
Wow, that's interesting. I didn't know that. I
Correct.
just learned something new today. So in residential housing, which is primarily what this is the problem, right? You see it. You don't see it in commercial real estate that much, right?
Oddly enough, we're seeing it in changing rooms of.
Good point.
And the whole thing with us, we deal in confidentiality.
Yeah.
Okay. So our box truck, our trailer, nothing is leaded.
Right. Well,
with
yeah,
the company
you don't
name.
want to pull up in front of
and out of abundance of caution,
at the Marriott Hotel or
right.
something. Right.
So,
Right.
and the thing about it is that, as I said, out of abundance of caution, those vehicles were registered in my own personal name.
Okay.
Because technically, if you have a company truck,
Right.
in some shape or form under Rhode Island law, it's supposed to be leaded.
Right.
So we don't letter it. We don't have any company uniforms.
Yep.
Because if a neighbor or someone in the house knows that there's bed bugs there,
Right.
all of a sudden your kids are not getting invited to, a sleepover. They're not getting invited to
Right.
birthday
It's a
parties.
stigma, yeah.
You're not getting invited to Christmas parties. I mean, the stigma that goes along with having bed bugs it's literally a scarlet letter A plastered on you. So everything with us is discretion, discretion, discretion.
No kidding. Yeah, well, like I began the show, this is a creepy, crawly subject that not everyone likes to talk about, but you really have to. It's a big issue now.
Correct.
I know my wife works in the school department, and when she comes home every day, I mean everything comes off, and because you just don't know between lice and bed bugs and anything else, which are accidentally brought in. No one intends to bring this stuff in, but so residential and commercial. So you have like hotels, you have motels, like you mentioned, changing rooms in department stores.
Done them all.
So you guys are like the Ghostbusters. You go in there, right?
Correct.
And it's all
Correct.
undercover, incognito, and you
Correct.
take care of the problem so everyone doesn't run out of the place, right?
Correct. And the thing about it is that bed bugs are more active. The warmer it is outside, the higher the humidity is, it seems the more active bed bugs have become. And our problem here in Rhode Island is basically the coast, because we have the people from the tri-state area, Western Connecticut, New York City, New Jersey. They vacation in Westerly. They vacation in Block
Good
Island.
point.
They vacation in Newport, Narragansett. Extremely, extremely busy. And under protocol set out by Rhode Island Department of Health, if you have a hotel room and there's bed bugs in it, that has to stay vacant for a month. You lose a month. Where with heat treatment, because our process kills all 3 levels of bed bugs in one 8-hour treatment, they can do a fine cleanup and have that unit back out to rent the very next day.
So what are the ramifications for not treating? Let's say you just let it go, other than the infestation that you're going to have eventually. But what type of sicknesses do you?
Absolutely nothing. So even though bed bugs look like they could be in the tick family, because they do look like that small apple seed, they carry absolutely no disease whatsoever. So they're a nuisance insect.
I see.
But they carry no diseases.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Wow, I would have always thought they were like a tick, that you can get some sort of foreign.
No Lyme disease, nothing like that.
Really,
no.
Really.
And the other thing that people don't realize too is that there's a twin to a bed bug out there. So we've had people call that says, "Oh, I got bed bugs." We go out there, and actually they got bats in their attic. They're bat bugs. And if you look up a picture of a bed bug and a bat bug, the only difference is the bat bug has like a little fur on its head.
Yep.
But otherwise, it looks identical.
I see.
To bed bugs.
Really.
So it takes a little detective work once we get out there.
Yep.
And but they're out there, and as I said, bed bugs are hitchhikers. So if you visit any of the facilities or any establishments down along the southern coast, in really any hotel establishment, it's Russian roulette.
Right. Wow. I mean, my wife, when we go away, I'm kind of the type of person like, don't worry, nothing's ever going to happen. But when we go away, my wife will not open. She won't leave the suitcases open when we go in a motel or a hotel somewhere, and she zips them up tight every time she needs something. And I say, "Why? Just hang the stuff up." And she refuses to do it because of the potential bed bug problem. But I always thought there was some sort of illness associated with this. But why? Are they just that? Are they bed bugs? If you brought these things home accidentally, do they nest anywhere else other than in a bed?
Yes, and bed bugs are basically lazy insects, okay? So just a thumbnail sketch of bed bugs. Bed bugs basically like to feed about an hour before sunrise, okay? So if someone's a lot of elderly people will, because of, aches and pains and whatnot, will sleep in their recliner. Yep. So within 20 feet of that recliner where they see is usually our drop zone for bed bugs nesting.
I see.
So anywhere, if you have visitors come up, from out of town, they sleep on the couch.
Right.
That recliner chair. But most of the time, it's box spring mattresses and nightstands next to the table and things, headboards. Those are prime areas. Just a few things going back to hotels. I've become a bit of a germaphobe. The more I get into this, the more of a germaphobe I get.
So, yeah.
Myself and all my kids, because it is a family business, and my 3 boys come with me on individual jobs, and even my daughter has. They all, as well as myself, you get to a hotel, the headboard isn't attached to the bed. Right. It's basically hung like a picture on the wall in many instances. Well, we all take that off because that's going to be one of the prime areas you're going to see. Okay. Bed bugs, eggs, larvae, fecal matter.
What, they get behind it?
Yes, because the sheets are changed on the mattress in the blankets on a daily basis or every other day. They have a tendency not to nest there.
I see.
Because there's too much action. So they will be off the bed, but on the headboard, where a pillow will act as a bridge or a sheet or something like that. So it's that 20-foot drop zone area from where people sleep.
I see.
Is fair game to investigate for bed bugs.
So are they like chickens? They have a nest and they come out and then they go back to the roost when they're done feeding, or they
Correct.
Correct. That's the way it works.
Correct. And many times we can find their nest because the fecal matter looks like if someone took a Sharpie out of their pocket and then put black dots in a circle. Many black dots. That's what it looks like.
Wow.
Usually they do not like to go to the bathroom inside their nest.
Right.
So just before they go into the nest, that's where they will relieve themselves. So if we can find the fecal matter, we can find the nest. And then many times they gorge themselves and there'll be like red pin drops all the way back to the nest.
So you can follow it back.
Correct.
So when you say feed, you mean on people? I mean, or living things, they'll bite.
Yeah, more or less people, they don't like to physically be on people. And many times bed bug bites will be in a straight line, and that's them hanging off of the sheet to feed on people, but not necessarily be on people.
I see.
And then when they're done feeding, they'll go back to the nest.
So when you say feed, I know this is overly technical, but what do they eat? The skin? Do they eat?
No, they stick a needle. They stick a needle right into you, almost like any other insect.
Something like a mosquito, basically.
Yeah.
Wow.
And just like a mosquito, the reason they know you're there is they're attracted to the carbon dioxide that we breathe out.
I see. See. That makes sense.
And many people say, well, I got bed bugs in this room, so I'm going to move to the next room until you get here. It's like, well, you move to another room after a couple of days if there's no one to feed on, and they can detect carbon dioxide.
I see.
In the next room or in the unit above, the unit below, they will move to the food.
Wow. So are there any, since we're food for them, are there any people that are more susceptible? Is it the elderly people because they don't move as fast and they're in these chairs? They'll sit in a chair like my father when he was retired.
Yeah, no, they
he sat in his lazy boy recliner all day long.
Yeah, no, they don't discriminate.
Yep.
They'll feed on anybody. As I said, during their feeding time. So as long as there's an occupant in that dwelling unit,
really,
they'll feed.
Wow. So you must have come across some horror shows with this. I mean,
well, yes, and especially statistically, a female bed bug impregnated once with a human to feed on can multiply to as high as 30,000 bed bugs in 6 months.
Holy mackerel!
So
wow.
they multiply exponentially,
right?
And it only takes one interaction between a female and a male that she can keep laying.
And they just multiply and multiply and
Correct.
multiply after that. That's why you see these pictures on the internet. That's where the worst case scenario always
Correct.
seems to be on the internet.
But it can grow quite quickly.
Huh. So when you go in, you identify the problem. Obviously, you heat up these rooms, and you have to wait for the mattresses to get up to temperature. And once they die in there, I mean, what do people usually do? They throw the mattresses away?
No, that's the one thing about our procedure is that unlike chemical, many people spray the beds down and spray. You're really not supposed to spray the mattresses or box springs. However, people do. Mm-hmm. We just heat it. It's a deep heat, so they're dead. We then advise people at that point, you can vacuum them with a HEPA vacuum, which is a true HEPA where the filter is 99.97% efficient down to 0.3 microns.
I see.
You can vacuum that up. We advise putting a good mattress and box spring cover on that, one that goes over the entire mattress, the entire box spring,
I see.
that has a locking zipper component to it. A local company from Warwick, Clean Rest, makes a great one.
So they don't chew through they won't
Correct.
chew
They
through
can't go through the zip of that small hole.
Okay.
So, and they can't get in and they can't get out. So we advise that. And then we always advise if you're in a multifamily house, they have bed bug traps, which in the business are called monitors.
I see.
They're like white petri dishes you put under the feet, and they have double rings. So if any bed bugs are coming from another unit, they try getting into yours, they're caught in the outer ring. And with the monitors being white, you can instantly see the brown,
Yep.
like as I said, apple seed in there. So it's coming from the outside in, and then anything that's on the inside on the bed trying to get out, they're caught in the inside ring. And everything we do is non-toxic. So the propane heat is a dry heat, non-toxic. The traps themselves, non-toxic. The mattress encasements, waterproof, hypoallergenic, also keeps out dust mites and whatnot. So it's not only just we go in and exterminate, it's really a pest management plan.
Right.
So it's not just, if people come away from this talk show with one thing, do not use those over-the-counter bombs. Okay? That will make it tougher, and we're just one path to getting rid of bed bugs. You do have many reputable exterminators out there that use chemical.
I see.
They do a wonderful job. You have to do 3 treatments at least 2 weeks apart. They do a good job. We do high heat. We do high heat in many instances where the bed bugs have become immune to it, or there's young children in the unit and you don't want those carcinogens in there.
Yeah, makes sense.
Elderly citizens, because those chemicals are a respiratory irritant.
Right.
Okay. Or people have pets. They don't want their pets exposed to it. So in those instances, you can come with us. But do not use those bombs in your unit. First of all, unlike a professional chemical person, they basically spray, and there's places they can spray and can't spray, okay? But those bombs get all over the kids' toys. They get on your dishes. They get on your utensils. And they have a tendency not to kill the bed bugs, but they'll drive the bed bugs structurally. So the bed bugs will run away from those over-the-counter purple can sprays.
Yep.
And now, once they're behind the outlets, behind electrical outlets, behind the baseboard of your house, then it becomes extremely problematic to get them, whether you go chemical or heat.
So, so you had mentioned those monitors. Is it a good idea just to have those in your house anyway as a preventative measure, or is that overkill?
No, it all depends. If you have, I don't want to get too deep into the weeds on this, but if I had a child that was in the city of Woonsocket Elementary School, I would have bed bug monitors on there.
Okay.
All right, because if they do bring them home and they're contained to their bed, they try to go to another room, that's your first line of defense.
So it all depends what the occupants of the house,
Correct.
what they do for a living.
If
maybe
you have a senior that's going to adult daycare,
right.
If you have a senior that has a visiting nurse or social worker, most of the social workers and visiting nurse I know very well trained on what to do with that little black backpack that they carry,
right.
Okay, and whatnot. But there are a number out there that are not so diligent on it. And we've done a high number of people in the nursing profession, people in the physical therapy, things of that nature.
Well, the reason why I asked that is I go into numerous foreclosures every week houses that are not the cleanest houses of in the world. And of course, the first thing I look for are usually fleas, because it drives you crazy. You walk into a house and all of a sudden you got a couple of fleas on you, and you think you got them off, and you don't know, are there more that you're actually bringing the problem home? So I never really thought about the bed bug issue in some of these houses, that I could be transporting this problem. You said they like to hitch a ride.
Correct.
I'm wondering if it's just if you're in that kind of a field. If you're a tradesman and you're in different houses every day, plumbers are in there doing work at different people's houses every day or whatnot, school teachers, whatnot, it might be a good idea to put these monitors in, just even if they don't do anything, right?
It is, and then follow your own protocols. I tell people in those professions, listen, heat is your friend, okay? So if you're in a house that you think is a little sketchy, whether it's cockroaches, mites, fleas, you get home, tear your clothes off in the garage, in the breezeway out, and then get them in a dryer on high heat for a half hour to 40 minutes immediately.
Really? Okay. That's the key.
Once you do that, it all dies.
I see.
Some people say, I'll wash it. Well, you know what? And a lot of these insects can swim. All right. So if you got a top loader machine, they've made it out.
Really?
So put it in the dryer first, on high heat for a half hour, 40 minutes. I said, then you can wash.
That's a great tip.
But heat first.
Oh.
And if you do have one of those professions where you have to carry that backpack, a lot of them have the large plastic containers with the sealing lid on it.
Right.
So bed bugs did get out of their backpack or their bag that they're carrying. Yep. They cannot walk up that slippery plastic side.
Oh, so they're dependent on what is a rough surface?
Correct.
Okay.
So even the monitor that I talked about, it's smooth plastic, which on the inside is just lined with cornstarch.
I see.
Okay. But the outside ring has medical tape on it. So the medical tape makes it easier for them to climb into the trap,
I see.
the monitor, and then they slide down into that outer ring, but then they can't climb out.
Wow. Boy, it's amazing how the technology, I remember my relatives up on the farm up in Canada, they used to catch mice in the barns. They'd take a bowl and they'd put lard on the inside of the bowl, and then they have a little ramp that went up to the bowl, and they put, whatever food at the bottom of the bowl, and the mice, they would slip and slide trying to get out of this big bowl, and it's basically the same technology.
Same
My
thing.
God, that was 60 years ago when I was a kid. Wow. No, please.
And you can use, to be environmentally friendly and toxic-free, you can go to your local hardware store and get diatomaceous earth, referred to as DE. And you don't want the pool filter because that's ground too finely. But the regular DE, which is many times in the insecticide area, is used to kill insecticides in third world countries in grain silos and things of that nature. You can actually use that to sprinkle around, and it will not, you can ingest it, will not make you sick in any way. But when the bed bugs walk through that, it strips that wax off the outside of their body.
I see.
Which allows them to dehydrate. And depending on how big of the granules are, it can break their kneecaps.
And that's an over-the-counter?
Over-the-counter.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
So if you think you have a bed bug problem, and it's only you only see a male with the pointy back, and you don't see any females, no eggs, no larvae, you can HEPA-vac up diligently. Mattress encasement, box spring encasement, your monitor traps on there. If you think you need to spread a little diatomaceous earth around, you might be able to get through it. Might. And I would say do all that before, God forbid, do not use that purple can with the bomb. That'll just compound your problem.
It gets over everything in your house, right? That's
and it won't kill the bed bugs.
Wow, that's unbelievable. Wow. So we've been talking to John Barr from Bed Bug Extermination, Rhode Island, and we'll be back right after this message.
Real Estate Pro Talk is a live radio talk show dedicated to educating its listeners on the entire spectrum of real estate matters. Part of the American dream is owning a home or investment property, or perhaps even becoming a real estate agent yourself. Paul Vanas and his team of real estate professionals have over 250 combined years of experience in the industry. In other words, we can make it happen for you. Why go down the road less traveled when we can put you directly on the real estate superhighway? Whether buying or selling in today's complicated real estate market, or if you just need advice about jumping into the real estate business for a career change, you'll need a decisive edge based on experience. Call Paul Vanas at 401-265-6144 for a free, no-obligation consultation. That's Paul Vanas at 401-265-6144.
And we are back. Welcome back to Real Estate Pro Talk. Our first real estate tip of the week this week is to, wintertime is a good time to flush out your hot water tank. Every 2 years, your hot water tank should be flushed out. A lot of people don't do this because the mineral deposits in the water, water has iron in it. Iron settles to the bottom of these fiberglass-lined tanks. And that should really be flushed out of your hot water tank, whether it be an electric hot water tank, propane, natural gas, or whatever. It will extend the life of your hot water tank. Also, if it's time for, the typical hot water tank is, 8 to 10 years maybe. National Grid right now has a rebate program whereby they will, depending on the age of your hot water tank, you can get a pretty decent rebate for a replacement of an electric hot water tank. So we're back with John Barr, and John, tell me about the inspection process. All right, someone calls you and they say, "Hey, John, we got this issue." You put on your magnifying glasses, you get down on all fours. What's the process? How do you do it?
Well, for the most part, when we show up at a dwelling, the bed bugs are hibernating at that time, or they're back at their nest. Because as I said, they like to come out about an hour before sunrise, maybe a little earlier. So they're really a nocturnal insect.
Yeah.
That's when they're coming out to eat. But as I said, we can see those blood droplets going back to the nest because they have a tendency to gorge themselves. We actually look at the client to see what kind of bumps they have on their arms. And just so you know, we many times we'll get to a dwelling unit and the husband will say, I don't know what she's talking about. I sleep in the same bed. I'm fine. And the thing about it is the only people that show the red welts are people that are allergic to bed bug bites. So if you're not allergic, you're
really?
getting bit,
Oh,
but you don't have any of the red welts.
I didn't know that.
So, many times I'm like, my friend, you are getting bit. It's just that you're not allergic, so you're not showing. So we do look for eggs. We do look for larvae. We do look, and many times we find fecal matter, but we don't find eggs or larvae. And in those instances, you can have a rogue male.
I see.
So we'll search it out, and if you find that bed bug with the pointy back, that's a male. That's a lot less problematic because they can't multiply.
Right.
It's just that one nuisance.
That makes sense.
So at that point, each dwelling we go to is different. The age of the house plays into it, the insulation of the house, how high the ceilings are, square footage, the logistics of being even able to back up my trailer to the house.
Right.
Because of, we live in an older section of the country, I actually bought a heater that is on wheels and can go 50 feet from the trailer with ramps.
Oh, okay.
So my gas line and my electric line can go 50 feet because here in the city of Woonsocket or Central Falls or Pawtucket, you have a narrow alleyway between the two houses where you tight to even get a car in.
Yeah, sometimes
never
they're 5
mind,
feet between the two houses.
Never mind a 14-foot trailer.
Right. So
in those instances, we park in the front of the house. It can go out on all four wheels and things. So every day is a different adventure.
So you go in. So you don't necessarily have to get down and on all fours with like a private investigator. Like Inspector Clouseau with your.
No, I do have a magnifying glass.
You just know where they naturally nest, and you go to those spots, and that's where you begin.
99% of the time, we just ask, all right, who's getting bit? I'm getting bit. Where do you sleep at night?
Okay.
All right. So once they tell us that, that's ground zero for us. That's where we go in. And then at that point, we will go to, the bedroom to the right of it, to the left of it. And many times, if it's a lot of activity in that bedroom, we will basically say, listen, if it's a landlord, we need to get in the bedroom above, and we need to get in the bedroom below, because they use the electrical outlets and electrical wires as the superhighway.
Ah.
All right.
Really?
So we even look for fecal matter on electrical outlets.
Wow.
Yeah.
You said something interesting during the break, too, because you said something whereby if someone on the second floor, for example, is ignoring the problem, it can become a problem for the other floors in the house.
Very quickly.
And because of the cost. Sometimes people feel because of the cost they can't deal with it or whatever, and then all of a sudden the whole house is infestated.
Correct. And then it becomes quite expensive. So we always tell people ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. The sooner you get into this,
Right.
To rectify the situation, the easier it'll be on everybody involved.
So you must have some interesting stories when you come home at night and sit around the dinner table to talk about, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. And it's funny where, when we first got into the business, even some of our social engagement seemed to drop off because once people found out, and you try telling people, it's like, no, we have Tyvek suits and we wear Croc shoes and, things
We're not
like
going to
that
invite
nature.
John over here because
Yeah.
who knows what we're going to get, right?
And when we go in there, not only do we heat it up, but you have to move every single solid piece of furniture
Yeah.
to make sure there's been no area that a bed bug could hide from the heat.
Yep.
So we are literally working in 125 to 135 degree temperature at 5 to 7 minute intervals where we have to stay very hydrated.
I see. So does there, from a house standpoint, does it matter the age of the house? Like, my question would be, well, obviously you can have a brand new house someone brings them into, and you can have a very old house. But do they tend to thrive better in a certain type of house, or it doesn't matter?
Doesn't matter. The only thing that matters for us is that the houses, new construction, are built tighter. The R value is greater in the walls and whatnot. So we can bring our heat up to 125 degrees much quicker than the house, say, here on Park Avenue that has balloon construction,
Right.
not much insulation in the walls. At that point, if you put one of those infrared guns while we're heating in the wintertime, you would just see heat hemorrhaging
Right out the
everywhere.
windows, right? Like the house I grew up in, the window. Every time the wind blew, the windows would rattle. And,
Correct.
So, is there a certain time of year that's better to treat for these things?
Well, for us, the warmer it is, we get a quicker time to the kill mark.
Wow.
So it's always easier for us in July and August.
Yeah.
In January, a 6-hour job will take 8.5 hours to complete
I see.
because we're fighting the elements.
So what's the typical phone call you get? Obviously, someone calls you. They say, "I think I'm being bit. I got these little red dots on me or whatever, the welts."
Correct, or they even see them. And the nice thing about technology today, they get up at night and they're getting bit, or and having bed bugs really messes with your psyche because you have a piece of hair going across your forehead. Once
Right.
you know you have bed bugs, they're up because they think that's
Yeah.
a bed bug crawling across my forehead.
Right.
So they'll take pictures of it and then text me a picture. So my business phone number is my cell phone.
Yeah.
I didn't get a hotline because this way here I can be reached 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Nice.
So at 2 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning, people are texting me pictures, and I'll text back and say, just preliminary from what I see,
Right.
and if it's picture taken on a Windows phone, you can see quite clearly
Absolutely.
if it's even if it's a male or female bed bug.
Really, it's funny you mentioned that about the psyche because that's so true. On the foreclosure in the foreclosure world, I go to a lot of real estate auctions and whatnot, and all I got to do is tell some of the guys in the street that there's fleas in that house, and then all of a sudden you watch the guys who were in the house previous, they'll start scratching, and there might not be one flea in the house,
Yeah.
but it's all in their head. It's amazing how that happens.
It's the same with bed bugs. Once
Yeah.
we start, everybody starts scratching once you start talking
Right,
about
right.
bed bugs.
Right.
So.
Our listeners tonight are going to be, going to be turning the heat up to 150 degrees in the house.
We've been doing this 7 years now, so we have the protocols down hard.
Right.
Because myself, my children that work with me, every now and then we'll pull in an associate to work. Never once has anyone brought them home because we follow strict protocols.
I see.
Cross-contamination, everything's washed that's in the house coming out. So we're very, very diligent not to cross-contaminate with our house or the next job we're going to the next day.
I see. And of course, it's always different, and depending on the size and the scope of the job. But what's the typical costs associated with this?
If you look at with heat, you don't have to throw away, in most instances, unless it's a severe infestation, you don't have to throw away your box spring, don't have to throw away your mattress or couches. A 3-bedroom house or apartment could go anywhere from $1,600 to $2,200.
Okay.
And the thing about it, another nice thing about going with heat, we like to tell everybody one and done.
Mm-hmm.
So you go to work at 8 o'clock in the morning, we roll in. By the time you get home at 4:30, your entire bed bug problem is gone.
Right.
Okay? Where if you go on average with chemical, it takes 3 treatments, as I said, 2 weeks apart, because if you have bed bugs in your dwelling unit, you have 3 phases. You have bed bugs, you have eggs, and you have larvae.
Wow.
Okay? So every 2 weeks, those will come into being. So you have to have 3 treatments. And many times, because of what they're spraying, they have to throw away box spring mattresses, and that can get quite costly if you have to replace your living room set. And in that end, the people I know that do it charge between $200 and $250 per room, including a bathroom. Okay, so you just got to weigh what you can afford, and if you don't, if you don't mind living with bed bugs for that month that you have to have the 3 treatments. Or, as I said, many people truly do come to us because for one form or another, respiratory problems, children,
Right.
pets, or the husband that went away to Punta Cana on a golfing trip,
Right.
brought him back, and the wife is livid, and he's
Yep.
he's in the doghouse till these are
Oh,
gone.
sure, absolutely.
So
So for $1,600, which is still some money in my world, but if you think about it, it's
Peace of mind.
It's peace of mind, and it's that's like a mortgage payment now, 1 month's mortgage payment, or depending on where you live, maybe a month and a half's rent, just to get rid of the problem, and you don't have it come back, and then you just if it were me. I would certainly scrimp and save to get it done, and then put the monitors in, like you said, to make sure it doesn't happen again. At
Correct.
least
We tried to impress upon people. Education is the key to defeating bed bugs. It isn't heat. It isn't chemical. It's really education. So everything you can do to institute your own pest management program. The lesser everything dealing with bed bugs with us is probability.
Right.
The probability you'll get it if you travel is less if you follow the protocols.
I see.
Okay, as we talked about earlier, when I travel, I put nothing in the dresser drawers. I never put my suitcase on the bed. Everything stays in my suitcase. Once I'm done taking my clothes out, I put the suitcase in the bathtub. Okay, when I need to take a shower, suitcase comes out. Take a shower, dry the tub down. Put the suitcase back in.
Right.
We do check box springs. We do check mattresses. I do check the headboard.
Yep.
All those areas, if you do that stuff, and once you come home, the suitcase stays out in your car. It stays out in your garage. And everything, whether it's clean clothes or dirty clothes, goes into a dryer for a half hour.
Okay.
At minimum 40 minutes on high heat. Kill anything, and then you'll ensure that you don't bring back any bed bugs, any cockroaches. If you do go to Central and South America, they have cockroaches the size of mice around here.
Sure.
So you don't want to bring anything back.
Right.
So those are the protocols that we more or less lay out. And as I said, to become a germaphobe, I'll sit in a plastic chair, but I won't sit on a chair, even a
cloth chair.
doctor's office with a cushion.
Yeah, that's what my wife is the same way. She won't do it. Yeah.
And I hate to be rude, but whenever I go to someone's house to spec it out, they always say, "Oh, please sit down."
Right.
I'm not sitting down. We've
Right.
got a confirmed case of bed bugs.
Yeah.
I'm not sitting down.
Oh, wow.
You know?
So if someone does bring these things home in a suitcase, is there a shelf life that these, like, let's say you don't open the suitcase, you keep it in the garage for a week or something. I mean,
Now, see, and that's the problem with bed bugs more than any other insect. If you keep it outside in the cold weather, like cockroaches, it gets below 32 degrees, they die.
right.
Bed bugs can hibernate, and they can hibernate for up to a year. Okay,
Really?
so they can hibernate, no food. They can survive for up to a year in adverse conditions.
So you got to hit them with heat, right?
Correct.
It's no such thing as leaving the suitcase out on your porch for a couple of weeks. You got to do it right.
Correct.
Wow.
Correct.
Wow. I didn't know that.
Yep.
Huh. So, matter of fact, I was speaking to someone a little while ago, and she told me that she has, when they have people come over to the house to stay overnight, she makes them put their suitcases in the bathtub. So even family members. So imagine having your brother-in-law or your sister-in-law tell you, hey, wait, what are you making me do this for? So I can see why.
And it's all peace of mind. And if you look at, the highest percentage of bed bugs are probably in New York City right now.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and then an article came out that Boston is the number 5 city for bed bugs in the
Really?
United States. So we're right in the middle.
Right.
Okay, so, and there's always a lot of traffic, tenants, whatnot, between the I-95 corridor between Boston and New York. We're almost, almost in the middle, and it's a significant problem nobody talks about.
So your business, is the bulk of your business residential, or is it? I mean, I would think you must be going into a lot of hotels and motels and
July and August, it's hotels, motels, and beach rentals. And we get people praying because people, it's a Saturday to Saturday rental. Okay.
Yeah.
People want us in there Saturday morning, so the new people coming in, it'll be clean for them if the previous tenants complained about bed bugs.
Wow.
So, yeah, we get crazy calls.
Wow.
Then we have some calls that we don't want people to know you're doing it, so can you start at midnight and heat till 8 in the morning?
Really?
And the machine's quiet.
Yeah.
If we have if I have to use my generator, it's loud.
Right.
But it's just a regular 220 line that plugs into a range, electric range or something like that. I have a 220. It's just a light hum of the fans in the machine, and
The
that's
motors.
it.
Wow.
So it's very quiet. We don't tent anything like the old days of Extermination. They would tent. We just put the tubes into the dwelling unit, and then we vent out wherever we want the heat to go. So
Really?
we'll open up the window in one bedroom. All the heat will go there.
I see.
Shut that. The next one we'll vent out. So it's all venting,
Yeah.
pumping heating, and proper ventilation.
Wow. Boy, this is interesting stuff. A lot of this I had never heard of, John. I've been in the real estate business, like I said, almost 40 years now, and it's really interesting. We got about 9.5 minutes left, so we're going to take one more commercial break, and we'll be right back.
Real Estate Pro Talk is a live radio talk show dedicated to educating its listeners on the entire spectrum of real estate matters. Part of the American dream is owning a home or investment property, or perhaps even becoming a real estate agent yourself. Paul Vanas and his team of real estate professionals have over 250 combined years of experience in the industry. In other words, we can make it happen for you. Why go down the road less traveled when we can put you directly on the real estate superhighway? Whether buying or selling in today's complicated real estate market, or if you just need advice about jumping into the real estate business for a career change, you'll need a decisive edge based on experience. Call Paul Vanas at 401-265-6144 for a free, no-obligation consultation. That's Paul Vanas at 401-265-6144.
Okay, we are back with John Barr of Bedbug Extermination RI. Second real estate tip of the week. On your warm hot air system, the filters, there's filters in your warm hot air system and your furnace. Those should really be changed on a regular basis. However, if you haven't changed yours in the wintertime, you should really change them every 3 weeks because the blower in that unit is really working overtime, and it's pulling down dust from your ductwork throughout the house that really isn't flowing through the system during other times of the year, with the exception of the summertime when you have central AC, assuming you have central AC. So you should really change those filters on your warm air system. They sell them by the case. You can go down to any local box store or plumbing supply house and buy a case of the filters. Just make sure you know the size that your system requires and make sure you put them in the right direction. So, John, any good stories about, I'm sure you have a bunch to tell, but we only got about 7 minutes left. Any really horror shows that you've had to go in and...
Sadly enough, the real horror shows have to do with our senior population.
Yeah, that's sad.
That are dealing with dementia issues.
Yeah.
They don't even know that they're getting bit. We had one instance in West Warwick where we literally told the owner of the unit, we'll heat it, but nothing is salvageable because there wasn't hundreds of bed bugs. There was literally in the tens of thousands of bed bugs.
It just went on and on and on.
It just went on and on. And bed bugs will nest anywhere where it's warm. So if you have a TV set, a VCR, any technological component that has its own little fan in it, they love to be in those because it's warmth all the time. They love the warm weather. And this guy's cable box, his VCR, because he still had a VCR, his regular TV, everything was just infested with bed bugs to the point where
that's sad.
we heated for about 10 hours.
Really?
But the dumpster was delivered. We would heat it and just throw it, because it was third floor, throw it out the window.
Really?
We'd bag it, throw it out the window.
Yep.
And they just kept coming out of the walls, under the rugs, in the kitchen cabinets. They were in the refrigerator.
So how long would you estimate, how long would it take to get from bringing one home to that type of infestation?
8 months.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's a relatively
Unchecked.
That's a relatively short time. By
Yeah.
obviously, the older you get, the more time compresses.
Yeah. If no one is doing anything about it at all, it can grow in that magnitude very quickly.
Wow. So all of the belongings that the person had to be.
There's really, because he was getting fed on to an extent that it was really sad. But the amount of bed bugs in fecal matter was simply
Right.
Everything was just contaminated.
And of course, the older you get, your eyes aren't seeing things like you used to see. So what's on the floor might,
Luckily for the owner, this was a cinder block building. Otherwise it would have been. It was a third floor cinder block building. Otherwise, this would have been rampant throughout the building.
That's unbelievable. So where do you see it going? Do you see this problem just growing as the years go by? Now that the more powerful chemicals are gone, do you see that,
Correct. There's nothing really to replace DDT, even in the pipeline. And even if they develop something today, fast track is 7 years to get it through FDA and even like the CDC to see if it, cancer causing agent. So, people are going to have to be diligent, at least I see it, for the next 7 to 10 years.
Really?
Before, this is really brought, under control for the masses. But like I said, if you go there, little, ounce of prevention, you can get away unscathed. But there are some wild cards. If your kid's going to public or private schools, private schools are not immune from this either.
Sure.
It's just out there. You have to be vigilant and, play heads up ball. So when you're stripping the beds, on Saturday morning to wash your sheets, you got to be looking for fecal matter, some eggs, some larvae, things of that nature.
That makes sense. So, and of course, you have to constantly be educated as well, right? You must have some continuing education that you have to do on a regular basis in your business to learn the newer, the latest and greatest.
Yeah, we're constantly going to conferences to see, especially now, technology is growing by leaps and bounds, But, bed bugs were found in the tombs of the pharaohs. They've been around, they adapt to everything.
Right.
So, they're here to stay.
Wow. So, why don't you give the audience your contact information? Because I'm sure this is not falling on deaf ears today because it's such a sensitive subject. You want to give them your phone number and or email or website or?
Sure. Our website is bedbugri.com. So that, strictly bedbugri.com, www. My cell phone number is 401-465-1587. Clearly delineated on the website. We do have info bedbug email on there if someone wants to contact us by email. But we're a small family business. We only do one job a day. Some people have said, well, if you do this or do that, you can get in 2 jobs a day. But we give a 30-day warranty, okay? We work diligently to kill that problem in that 8 hours that we're there, okay? So I tell people, and they're like, well, have you ever had to go back? I'm like, very, very, very rarely. If people follow protocols. Now, education goes with it, because many times people go back to where they got them from, and they reintroduce them back in.
Right.
But with our 30-day warranty, and it's so expensive with propane to do the job, we don't want to go back as much as you don't want us to go back. So it's a win-win for everybody.
So what, and not to go backwards because we have a couple of minutes left, the typical situation is obviously not like that situation in West Warwick that you had previously mentioned.
Correct.
What's the run-of-the-mill situation? Like someone just spotted them for the first time and the infestation hasn't gotten out of control kind of thing?
Correct. Usually there's someone in the house, statistically, that will be allergic to bites. So once those welts come, many times it's people will go to their doctor, and the doctor will say, those are bed bug bites. And they're like, well, we don't have bed bugs, until they start to look, and then they find out, well, yes, you do have bed bugs.
I see. And the typical response time for your company, like if I called you tomorrow and said, John, of course, I'd want it done in 10 minutes if it were me, but what's the typical response time that you have to deal with it? Is it depending on the severity of the situation? Yeah,
it does depend on it. And we have had instances where someone has a mild case And we've worked with them to put in someone that has a mad infestation. We also have some bigger clients that we deal with down the city of Providence that they really don't care if we come on a Tuesday or Wednesday. We can switch out with those in those cases. I really try not to work on Saturday or Sunday, but those are our wild cards where if we do have to play a shell game with someone because a worse infestation, we do have to get in there. We do play with that schedule.
Wow, that's
and
great.
if need be, I do have the propane heating equipment and I do have the electrical 220 equipment. So we can actually split our truck and trailer and do 2 jobs in one day. But we really don't like to do that.
Wow, that's great stuff. Well, guys, thank you for listening. This has been Real Estate Pro Talk, and we were here with John Barr, and we'll talk to you next week.